Stop right now. Before you spend another single penny, look at what's in your pocket. Because what I'm about to show you isn't just spare change. It's hidden wealth, silent fortune, the kind of money people accidentally throw away every single day without even realizing it. These coins look ordinary, worn, even ugly, but collectors are quietly fighting over them behind closed doors. Real auction shock is happening, and nobody is talking about it publicly. You could be holding something life-changing and not even know it. Do not spend these coins. I'm serious. Check your pocket now, check your jar, check everywhere. Because each coin in this video gets rarer, more dangerous to ignore, and more valuable than the last. And the final one, it changes everything. Coin number 1. You wouldn't even notice it at first. That's the scary part. A dull, almost lifeless-looking penny. Grey-black layers. Worn just enough to feel old, but not special. Most people would toss it into a drawer or hand it over at a gas station without thinking twice. But that exact moment, that careless second, is where fortunes disappear. Because the 1,956D wheat penny doesn't scream value, it hides it. And what most people miss about this coin is the one tiny detail that flips it from pocket change into something collectors quietly chase like it's gold. Now here's where things start getting intense. The year 1956 wasn't just another random moment in US history. America was deep in a post-war economic surge. Industries were expanding fast, and the demand for coin production was massive. The Denver Mint, marked by that small D, was under pressure to keep up. Machines ran longer, dies wore down faster, and quality control wasn't always perfect. That stress, it created coins with subtle, almost invisible characteristics that today's collectors obsess over. And this coin carries that pressure in its metal. Look closely at the front, the obverse. Abraham Lincoln's portrait sits there, calm and familiar, but the surface tells a different story. The grey-black toning isn't damage, it's age, oxidation, time itself leaving fingerprints. The words, "In God we trust," curve above, while liberty and the date 1956 sit firmly beside him. Flip it over, and the reverse shows those iconic wheat stalks framing 1 cent and United States of America. Simple, ordinary. But that simplicity is exactly why people overlook it and lose serious money. This coin is made from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it that classic, solid feel. It weighs about 3.11 grams, with a diameter of 19 millimeters and a thickness that feels just right between your fingers, not too thin, not too thick. The girth, the edge, the way it sits in your palm, it all feels normal. And that's the trap, because nothing about this coin warns you that it could be worth over $160,000 in the right condition. Nothing tells you to stop, so people don't. And here's where most people make a devastating mistake. They see the dark surface, the grey, the black layers, and they think it's dirty. So they clean it. They scrub it. They try to make it shine again. And just like that, they destroy the value forever. That original toning, that's what collectors want. That untouched surface is proof the coin survived decades without interference. The moment you clean it, you erase its story and its price drops instantly. Never clean this coin. Not ever. The D mint mark is where things get even more serious. That tiny letter under the date tells collectors this coin came from Denver during a high-output year. But here's the twist. Finding one in extra-fine condition, with original surfaces and no damage, is becoming incredibly rare. Most of these coins were heavily circulated, worn down, or lost completely. So when one shows up with strong detail, natural toning, and that intact structure, collectors don't hesitate. They move fast, quietly, aggressively. Auctions for coins like this aren't loud or flashy. They're tense, silent, bidders watching, waiting, then striking at the last second. Because they know what they're looking at, and they know how few are left. Many collectors don't even resell them. They hold them, lock them away, because supply keeps shrinking. And demand? It keeps rising. This isn't hype. This is real movement happening behind the scenes. So if you ever come across a 1956D wheat penny that looks dark, aged, maybe even a little ugly, stop. Do not spend this coin. Get it checked. Professional grading can mean the difference between a few cents and life-changing money. Look at the details first, the mint mark, the condition, the original surface. Be patient, because patience is where wealth is built in this game. Most people miss this. They rush, and they lose. And if you think this one is shocking, the next coin makes this look common. It's rarer, more intense, and what collectors are doing to get it, you wouldn't believe. Stay right here. You're about to make a mistake most people never recover from. Because this coin doesn't look valuable. It looks neglected. A 1941 wheat penny with no mint mark, grey-black spots spreading across the reverse like damage, like something you should ignore or spend fast. And that's exactly why people lose it. They don't see what collectors see. They don't feel the pressure inside this coin, the history, the timing, the silent signals that scream rarity if you know where to look. This is not fiction. This is the kind of coin people accidentally hand away for 1 cent, while someone else turns it into serious money. 1941 wasn't calm. It wasn't stable. The United States was standing at the edge of World War II, and everything, industry, metal supply, production, was about to shift forever. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, was already ramping up output in anticipation of what was coming. That pressure changed everything. Coins struck during this period carry the tension of a nation preparing for war. Materials mattered more. Speed mattered more, and small details started slipping through, details that today's collectors hunt obsessively. Now look at this coin the way a serious collector would. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln, but in fine condition, the details are softer, still visible, but worn just enough to prove it's circulated honestly. In God we trust, arches above, liberty sits to the side, and the date 1941 anchors the story. Flip it over, and this is where things get interesting. The wheat stalks frame the center text, but those grey-black spots on the reverse? That's not just dirt. That's aged toning, oxidation patterns that develop naturally over decades. Most people see damage. Collectors see originality. The composition is classic, 95% copper, with 5% tin and zinc. It weighs about 3.11 grams, with a diameter of 19 millimeters and a thickness that gives it that solid, unmistakable feel. The edge, the girth, the balance in your hand, it feels like every other penny. And that's the danger, because nothing about the physical feel warns you that this coin, in the right preserved state, has crossed $220,000 in today's market. Hidden wealth doesn't announce itself. It waits for someone careless enough to ignore it. Here's the detail that changes everything. The missing mint mark. No D, no S, just blank. That means Philadelphia. And while millions were minted, finding one today with natural toning, no cleaning, and a stable fine-condition surface is getting harder every year. Why? Because people ruin them. They clean them, polish them, scratch them, or simply spend them without a second thought. Survival isn't just about numbers, it's about condition. And condition is where fortunes are made or destroyed. Let me be clear, do not clean this coin. Those grey-black spots on the reverse, are part of its identity. The moment you try to fix it, you erase the very thing that makes it desirable. Original toning is everything. It tells collectors this coin has lived untouched, unaltered, authentic. Professional grading becomes critical here because one expert evaluation can confirm what most people would completely miss. And once that happens, the value can shift instantly from pocket change to a silent fortune. Collectors don't chase this coin loudly. They move quietly, strategically. When one appears with strong original surfaces and natural aging, the competition tightens. Bids don't explode, they creep, then jump at the last second. Because the people in that room understand something most don't. Supply is shrinking fast. Fewer untouched examples exist every year. And demand? It's growing, fueled by collectors who know these coins are disappearing from circulation one mistake at a time. If you ever find a 1941 wheat penny with no mint mark and dark spotting on the reverse, stop everything. Do not spend this coin. Check the surfaces, check the details, and most importantly, be patient. This is where people either lose everything or quietly build wealth. One wrong move, cleaning, selling too fast, ignoring it, and it's gone. Most people miss this. They think value comes from shine. But here, value comes from survival. And if this one feels intense, the next coin is on a completely different level. Rarer, more misunderstood, and what collectors are willing to do to get it, you won't see coming. Stay with me. Next up, it looks wrong. And that's exactly why people throw it away. A 1943 penny that isn't brown, isn't copper, and carries this cold grey surface that feels almost damaged, almost fake. Most people don't trust it. They think it's worthless, maybe even a mistake, and they rush to get rid of it. But that instinct, that split-second decision, is where money disappears. Because this 1943D wheat penny doesn't just break expectations. It hides a silent fortune inside a look people don't understand. And if you ignore it, you could be letting real money slip through your fingers. 1943 was not a normal year. The United States was deep in World War II, and copper, yes, the same metal used in pennies, was urgently needed for ammunition and military equipment. So the U.S. Mint made a radical shift. Pennies were struck using zinc-coated steel instead of copper. That's why this coin looks grey, almost lifeless, compared to the warm tones people expect. But behind that strange appearance is a powerful story of national pressure, resource scarcity, and emergency production that changed coin history forever. Now focus on the details most people never notice. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln, but in almost fine condition. The lines are softer, slightly worn from circulation. Still, "In God We Trust" remains readable. Liberty holds its place, and the date 1943 stands as a marker of wartime urgency. Flip it over, and you'll see the wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America. But here's where collectors slow down. The surface. That grey damage you see, it's often natural wear of the zinc coating, revealing darker steel underneath. To an untrained eye, it looks ruined. To a collector, it's history showing through. This coin feels different in your hand too. It weighs around 2.7 grams, lighter than the usual copper penny. The diameter stays about 19 millimeters, but the texture is slightly different, almost smoother in some areas, rougher in others depending on where. The thickness and edge still feel familiar, but something is off, and that off feeling is exactly what causes people to doubt it. And when people doubt a coin, they spend it. That's how rare pieces quietly disappear. Now let's talk about that small but powerful detail, the D mint mark. This means it was struck at the Denver Mint, where production was intense during wartime demand. Millions were made, yes, but survival in collectible condition is a completely different story. Steel cents were notorious for rusting, corroding, and deteriorating over time. Many were destroyed, damaged, or simply discarded because people didn't like how they looked. So finding one today, even in almost fine condition, with a stable surface and identifiable details, that's where things start to shift. And here's the part where people make a huge mistake. They see the grey surface, the uneven tone, maybe a little corrosion, and they try to clean it. They polish it, scrub it, or even coat it with something to protect it. That single action can destroy the value permanently. Original surface matters more than shine. Collectors want authenticity, not perfection. That worn, aged look is proof the coin survived decades untouched. Once you alter it, the story is gone, and so is the serious money. Do not spend this coin. That needs to be clear. If you find a 1943D steel wheat penny, stop and examine it carefully. Check the weight, the color, the mint mark. And most importantly, consider professional grading. Because one verified example can instantly change how the market sees it. This is where hidden wealth turns real. This is where silent fortune becomes visible to the right eyes. Collectors don't treat this coin casually. There's a different kind of energy around wartime steel cents. Some chase them for history, others for rarity, but when a solid piece appears, the bidding becomes focused and strategic. Not loud, calculated, because supply keeps shrinking. These coins don't age well, and every year fewer remain in collectible condition. Meanwhile, demand keeps building from people who understand what 1943 represents. So if you ever come across a strange grey penny that feels different, looks worn, maybe even a little damaged, don't trust your first instinct. That instinct is what costs people money. Look closer. Be patient. Because patience is where value grows. Most people miss this moment. They rush. And they regret it later. And if you think this wartime coin is shocking, the next one is even more dangerous to ignore. It looks completely normal, too normal, and that's what makes it one of the biggest hidden treasures still slipping through circulation today. Stay ready. Next up, this is the coin people ignore because it looks too strange to be valuable. A grey, spotted 1943 wheat penny with no mint mark, cold to the eye, worn from time, and often mistaken for nothing more than damaged metal. People see those grey patches on both sides and assume it's ruined. They toss it into change jars, spend it at checkout, or leave it forgotten in drawers. And that's the exact mistake collectors are counting on. Because this coin hides serious money behind an appearance, most people never bother to understand. What makes this even more intense is the year stamped on it. 1943 was one of the most dramatic years in American coin history. The United States was fully engaged in World War II, and every ounce of copper was desperately needed for wartime production, shell casings, communication equipment, military supplies. The Mint had no choice but to change everything. For one unforgettable year, pennies were struck in zinc-coated steel instead of copper. That decision created a coin so visually different that even today, many people think it looks fake. But that unusual grey color is exactly what tells the story. Now take a serious look at the obverse. Abraham Lincoln's portrait still commands the front, even in fine condition. Time has softened some details, but his profile remains strong enough to reveal authenticity. In God we trust, arches above, while liberty and the 1943 date stand as a reminder of one of the most pressured moments in U.S. manufacturing history. Turn it over, and the reverse displays the iconic wheat stalks surrounding 1 cent and United States of America. Those gray spots scattered across both sides, they aren't random flaws. They're often natural oxidation and age patterns caused by decades of exposure on zinc-coated steel. The physical feel of this coin tells its own story. Unlike standard copper wheat pennies, this one weighs around 2.7 grams. It's lighter, sharper in feel, and sometimes gives off a colder metallic touch because of the steel core. Its diameter remains 19 millimeters, with the same familiar thickness and girth as other Lincoln cents, but there's a subtle difference when it rests in your hand. It feels ordinary enough to dismiss, and that's what makes it dangerous. Hidden treasure rarely announces itself. And here's the tiny detail that changes everything. There is no mint mark. That blank space beneath the date means this coin came from Philadelphia, the nation's original mint. While millions were struck there, survival is where the rarity begins. Steel cents were fragile compared to copper issues. Moisture attacked them. Rust consumed them. People disliked the strange look and often discarded them. So finding a Philadelphia 1943 steel wheat penny today, in fine condition with natural surfaces and stable spotting, is becoming far less common than most realize. This is where careless collectors destroy value forever. They see gray spots and immediately try to fix the coin. They clean it, polish it, scrape away the darkened areas, thinking they're restoring beauty. In reality, they're erasing history. Never clean this coin. Original toning and untouched surfaces are what serious collectors obsess over. Those gray marks tell the survival story. Once removed, the authenticity collectors crave disappears instantly. Professional grading is critical here. A properly authenticated 1943 Philadelphia steel cent can transform from overlooked change into silent fortune. Graders examine the surface integrity, the zinc layer, wear patterns, and preservation quality. One correct certification can unlock value most people would never imagine from a single cent. This is not fiction. This is real hidden wealth slipping through circulation because people don't know what they're holding. Collector demand for this coin is deeply emotional. It represents sacrifice, wartime innovation, and a one-year experiment that can never be repeated in exactly the same way. Auctions for quality examples become tense. Not chaotic, focused. Experienced buyers wait, study, then strike with precision. And many never resell. They hold. Because every year fewer authentic examples remain untouched. Supply keeps shrinking. Demand keeps tightening. So if a gray-spotted 1943 wheat penny with no mint mark ever lands in your hand, stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Check the color, check the weight, check the blank space where a mint mark should be. Protect it carefully. Be patient. Because patience is how quiet fortunes are built in coin collecting. Most people miss this detail, and that mistake costs them. But don't relax yet, because the next coin looks even less suspicious, and that's exactly what makes it more dangerous. It's the kind of penny people spend without blinking, while collectors would do almost anything to get it. Stay with me. Next up, it doesn't shine. It doesn't look rare. In fact, this coin looks like something most people would reject instantly. A dull gray 1943 wheat penny covered in uneven spots on both sides. And that reaction, that quick dismissal, that's exactly how people lose a hidden fortune without ever knowing it. Because this specific 1943D in extra fine condition is one of those silent money pieces, quiet, overlooked, and constantly slipping through hands that don't recognize what they're holding. This is where people accidentally spend real wealth. You have to understand the moment this coin was born. 1943 wasn't just another mint year, it was pure wartime pressure. The United States had fully shifted into World War II production mode, and copper was too valuable to waste on coins. So the mint made a drastic move, switching to zinc-coated steel. That's why this penny doesn't carry that warm brown tone. It looks cold, industrial, almost lifeless. But that gray color? That's the fingerprint of wartime America. And the Denver Mint, marked by that small D, was pushing production hard under national demand. Now, look closely, because this detail changes everything. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's portrait, in extra fine condition, still shows strong definition. His coat lines, the curve of his jaw, the sharpness in the lettering. "In God we trust" stands bold above, "Liberty" remains clear, and the 1943 date is crisp enough to command attention. Flip it over, and the wheat stalks frame the design with impressive clarity. 1 cent and United States of America stand out. But those gray spots scattered across both sides, that's not damage in the way most people think. That's natural aging of the zinc layer, revealing the steel beneath in places. This coin feels different the second it touches your hand. It weighs about 2.7 grams, lighter than traditional copper cents. The diameter stays at 19 millimeters, but the surface texture shifts depending on how the zinc coating has aged. The thickness and edge remain familiar, but there's a subtle firmness, a colder feel that sets it apart. And here's the trap. It still feels normal enough to spend. Nothing about it screams, "Stop," and that's exactly why people don't. Extra fine condition is where things get serious. Most 1943 steel cents didn't survive like this. They rusted, corroded, or were discarded because people didn't like how they looked. So finding a 1943D with strong detail, minimal wear, and original surfaces is becoming incredibly difficult. That's why collectors pay attention. That's why this coin quietly climbs into six-figure territory. Not because it's flashy, but because it survived when most didn't. Now listen carefully, never clean this coin. Those gray spots, those uneven tones, that slightly aged surface, that's the value. The moment you try to polish it, you strip away authenticity. You remove the very evidence collectors look for. Original toning matters more than perfection. And once it's gone forever. This is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make, and it costs them everything. The D mint mark adds another layer of obsession. Denver wartime production created coins under intense mechanical stress, and collectors study these pieces closely, looking for surface stability, strike strength, and preservation. When a strong example appears, especially in extra fine condition, the room changes. Auctions become quiet but intense. Bidders don't play games. They wait, calculate, and move with precision. Because they know supply is shrinking every single year. This is why professional grading is critical. One authenticated, properly graded 1943D steel cent can transform from something ignored into a recognized asset. This is hidden wealth becoming visible. This is silent fortune turning real. And right now, examples like this have crossed $120,200 in the market. Not because of hype, but because collectors understand how rare true survivors are. So if you ever see a gray 1943 penny with a D mint mark and spotty surfaces, don't trust your instincts. Don't assume it's damaged. Don't spend it. Stop immediately. Examine it. Protect it. Because this is where patience turns into serious money. Most people miss this moment. They rush, they ignore, and they lose what could have changed everything. And here's the part that should make you uneasy. There are still coins out there, even rarer than this. Coins people are spending right now without hesitation. Coins that don't look special at all, but are worth far more than anyone expects.